The school hallways were always loud, filled with the chatter of students, the occasional sound of a locker slamming shut, and the constant shuffle of sneakers against the tiled floors. But today there was something different in the air. A new student had arrived, and in a place where everyone knew everyone, a fresh face always stood out. Jaden walked in with his backpack slung over one shoulder, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar corridors. He had been to new schools before. His family moved a lot, but the first day was always the hardest. He knew how this worked. People stared, some whispered, and then, there were always a few who made it their mission to test the new kid. At the far end of the hallway, a group of boys leaned against the lockers, laughing amongst themselves. They were the kind of kids who had an opinion on everyone and never missed a chance to prove they ran things around here. The tallest of them, Travis, nudged his friend and nodded in Jaden's direction. "Looks like we got ourselves a new bee," Travis muttered, a smirk forming on his face. "And check it out. He thinks he's tough." Jaden wasn't trying to look tough. He was just walking, minding his own business. But to guys like Travis, confidence always looked like a challenge. As Jaden passed, one of the boys, Liam, stepped in his way. "Yo, you lost or something?" he asked, his tone playful but not exactly friendly. Jaden stopped, his expression calm. "Oh, just heading to class." Travis stepped forward, circling him like a shark. "You got a name, new kid?" "Jaden," he answered simply. Travis chuckled. "Jaden, huh? Well, Jaden, let me give you some advice. In this school we like to know where people stand. So, you got two choices. You can stick with the right crowd," he gestured toward his group with a grin. "Or you can be one of those kids who sit alone at lunch, trying not to get noticed." Jaden raised an eyebrow. "And you're the one who decides that." Liam and the others laughed, amused by his response. Travis, however, didn't look as entertained. He stepped a little closer, lowering his voice. "You think you're funny." Jaden didn't answer. He had dealt with guys like this before. He knew that no matter what he said, they had already made up their minds about him. Travis studied him for a second before scoffing. "Man, I don't know why you're acting like you're something special." Then, just loud enough for the others to hear, he added, "Oh wait, I get it. You're one of those tough guys, huh? Think you can fight?" The other boys chuckled, but Jaden just gave a small shake of his head. "I don't want trouble," he said, his tone even. Travis grinned, sensing an opportunity. "Oh, we're not looking for trouble either," he said mockingly. "Just trying to get to know you." With that, he suddenly reached out and shoved Jaden's shoulder. Not hard, just enough to see how he'd react. The hallway got quieter as a few students nearby noticed what was happening. Some of them looked away, pretending not to see. Others watched, curious to see if the new kid would back down or stand his ground. Jaden took a small step back from the push, exhaling slowly. He didn't want to do this. He had promised himself and his mom that he would stay out of fights this time. That's why they moved here in the first place. Fresh start. But then Travis laughed. "Yeah, that's what I thought. Just another quiet kid who..." Before he could finish, Jaden's hand moved so fast that Travis didn't even see it coming. And in that moment everything changed. Travis barely had time to react. 1 second he was smirking, confident that he had Jaden figured out. The next he felt a sharp shift in the air, a movement too quick to track. Jaden didn't even throw a full punch. His hand simply flicked forward, tapping Travis's wrist with a motion so precise and controlled that it was almost casual. But it was enough. Travis's arm jerked downward, his balance suddenly off. For a split second no one moved. The hallway, once filled with murmurs and distant locker doors slamming, felt impossibly quiet. The other boys looked between Travis and Jaden, confusion flickering in their eyes. It wasn't the reaction they had expected. Travis straightened, trying to play it off. "What was that?" he scoffed, shaking out his arm as if nothing had happened. "You trying to be some kind of ninja or something?" Jaden didn't respond. He just stared at him, his expression unreadable. But his eyes, that was where the difference was. They weren't scared, weren't nervous. They were watching, studying. Like he was waiting for something. Liam nudged Travis. Man, just leave it. Let's go, he muttered under his breath. But Travis wasn't about to walk away. He wasn't used to feeling off. And whatever Jaden had just done, it had rattled him more than he wanted to admit. He had expected the new kid to back down, to stammer out some excuse or maybe even shove him back in frustration. That's how these things usually went. But Jaden, he wasn't reacting the way most kids did. Travis forced a grin. Nah, I think our new friend here needs a proper welcome. He stepped forward again, raising his hand slightly, as if testing the waters. This time Jaden didn't move. He just stood there, completely still. The kind of stillness that made people uneasy. Travis smirked, taking that as a sign of weakness. See? That's what I thought, he said, reaching for Jaden's shoulder. And suddenly, Jaden wasn't there. He hadn't stepped back. He hadn't even flinched. He had simply shifted his weight, pivoting his body just enough that Travis's hand touched nothing but air. That was the moment it clicked. Travis wasn't dealing with some regular new kid. Liam must have realized it too because he let out a low whistle. Dude, he muttered under his breath. Jaden finally spoke. His voice was calm, even quieter than before. Told you. I don't want trouble. Travis clenched his jaw. He felt the heat rising in his face, a mixture of frustration and, though he'd never admit it, something close to fear. He wasn't used to feeling out of control. And right now, standing in front of Jaden, he had no idea what was going to happen next. Jaden turned slightly, as if he was about to walk away. And that should have been the end of it. But Travis couldn't let it go. He reached for Jaden's backpack, grabbing onto the strap. Hey, I wasn't done talking to you. Jaden moved again, but this time there was no subtlety to it. In one smooth motion, he twisted out of Travis's grip, stepping to the side so quickly it was almost like he had disappeared. Travis stumbled forward, caught off guard. The grip he had on the backpack slipped, and for a second, he felt himself losing his balance. His foot skidded against the tile. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make him feel small. And Travis hated feeling small. The other students in the hallway had started to take notice now. Heads were turning. Whispers were spreading. Someone let out a quiet laugh. Not loud enough to be obvious, but just enough to be heard. And that was it. Travis's face twisted in frustration. His pride burned hotter than his common sense. He turned back toward Jaden, his fists clenching, his voice lower now. You think you're better than me? Jaden shook his head. No, he said simply. I just don't want to fight you. That should have calmed things down. Didn't. Because Travis wasn't just mad anymore. He was embarrassed. And when guys like Travis got embarrassed, they stopped thinking. You know what? Travis took another step closer, lowering his voice so only Jaden could hear. I don't care who you think you are. You're just some nobody. And I don't care if you can dodge a few grabs. You won't dodge everything. Jaden's face didn't change. But something in his posture did. It was subtle, barely noticeable unless you were really paying attention. A shift in weight, a slight adjustment in the way he stood. Travis didn't notice. But Liam did. And for the first time Liam actually looked at Jaden. Not just as some new kid, not as someone to mess with, but really looked at him. And suddenly a memory hit him. Last summer, Liam had spent a few weeks at his uncle's place in the city. One night, his uncle had taken him to a small boxing gym, just to check it out. It wasn't a fancy place, just a small, sweaty room filled with old punching bags and worn-out gloves. But there had been one guy there, moving in the ring like he had been born in it. He wasn't the biggest fighter, not the loudest, but he was fast, calculated. Every movement had a purpose. Liam had only watched for a few minutes, but the image had stuck with him. And now, standing in this hallway, looking at Jaden, it was the same stance, the same quiet confidence. Liam swallowed hard. Travis, he said, his voice a little uneasy. Maybe we should. But Travis wasn't listening. He was too caught up in his anger, too focused on proving a point. And as he raised his fist, preparing to throw a punch, Jaden exhaled. And everything slowed down. Travis swung. The punch came fast, but to Jaden, it might as well have been moving in slow motion. He had seen it 1,000 times before. An angry, reckless swing fueled by pride rather than skill. A punch like that wasn't hard to predict. It was wild, emotional, easy to read. Jaden didn't step back. He didn't panic. Instead, with effortless precision, he shifted to the side, letting the punch slide past him. Travis's fist cut through empty air, throwing him slightly off balance. Before he could recover, Jaden moved. He didn't hit him. He didn't even touch him. All he did was step in closer. His body just inches from Travis's. It was a simple movement, but it did something important. It put Jaden in complete control. From this close, he could see the frustration flicker in Travis's eyes. He could hear the unsteady breath, the realization creeping in. And then, just loud enough for only Travis to hear, Jaden spoke. "I could have hit you 3 times by now." The words weren't a threat. They weren't cocky. They were just the truth. Travis's entire body tensed. He pulled back quickly, his face flushed with anger and something else, something close to fear. The hallway, once loud and buzzing, was dead silent. Everyone had seen what just happened. No punches thrown. No real fight. And yet, somehow, Travis had already lost. Liam swallowed hard, finally breaking the silence. "Travis, man. Just leave it." Travis's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists at his sides, but he didn't take another swing. He just stood there, his pride crumbling in front of everyone. He had started this, thinking Jaden was an easy target. And now he was the one standing there, humiliated. Jaden didn't smirk. He didn't gloat. He simply took a step back, adjusting the strap of his backpack. "I don't want trouble," he repeated, just like before. And with that, he turned and walked away. For a moment no one moved. Then, the whispers started, low but growing. A few students exchanged glances. Others just stared at Travis, waiting to see what he'd do next. But Travis didn't do anything. He just stood there, his face hard, his fists still clenched. Then, without another word, he turned sharply and stormed off, shoving through the crowd. Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He looked at the others in the group, then back at Jaden, who was already disappearing down the hallway. There was something different about him, something that didn't quite fit the way Liam had originally thought. That's when it hit him. Jaden had never been scared of them. Not once. But he hadn't wanted to fight either. And somehow he had still won. The rest of the day moved on, but the story of what happened spread fast. By lunchtime, nearly everyone had heard about the new kid who had dodged Travis's punch like it was nothing. Some exaggerated the story, saying Jaden had taken Travis down in one move. Others swore he was some kind of trained fighter, maybe even a black belt. Jaden didn't correct them. He just went about his day like nothing had happened. But later, when he was alone, he pulled out his phone. A message from his mom sat unread. "First day of school. How'd it go?" He hesitated for a second before replying. "It was fine. No trouble." And then, just as he was about to put his phone away, another message popped up. An unknown number. "You're fast. But how fast when it's real?" Jaden frowned, staring at the message. He didn't recognize the number, but something about it sent a chill through him. He glanced around the hallway, suddenly feeling like someone was watching. And for the first time all day, he wondered, had someone been? Jaden's eyes lingered on the message, his thumb hovering over the screen. The words weren't long, but they carried weight. "You're fast. But how fast when it's real? Who sent this? And what did they mean by real?" For a second he considered ignoring it. Maybe it was just someone messing with him, one of Travis's friends trying to scare him. But something about it didn't feel like a joke. The wording, the timing, it was too precise, too intentional. He glanced around the hallway, his senses sharp. Students walked past him, caught up in their own conversations. A few stole glances his way, whispering about what had happened earlier. But no one stood out. No one looked like they had just sent a message meant to rattle him. With a slow breath, he locked his phone and slid it into his pocket. Whatever this was, he'd deal with it later. Right now he just wanted to get through the day. By the time school ended, the story of Travis's failed fight had grown into something even Jaden hadn't expected. As he walked toward the front doors, a few kids nodded at him, some offering quiet respect. Others just stared, still trying to figure him out. Liam, however, caught up to him. "Yo," he said, falling into step beside Jaden. "That was crazy earlier." Jaden didn't say anything, just kept walking. Liam hesitated. "Listen, I know Travis was acting like an idiot, but," he rubbed the back of his neck. "I gotta ask, where'd you learn to move like that?" Jaden gave a small shrug. "I just learned." Liam let out a short laugh. "That's not something you just learn, man. You didn't even flinch when he swung at you." He looked at Jaden more carefully. "You've done this before, haven't you?" Jaden stopped walking. He turned to face Liam, his expression calm but serious. "I don't go looking for fights," he said. "But I know how to stop them." Liam studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I figured." Jaden could tell he wanted to ask more, but to his relief, Liam didn't push. Instead, he glanced toward the parking lot. "Look, I don't know if Travis is gonna let this go. But I'm not gonna lie, man, what you did back there, that was kinda legendary." Jaden huffed a quiet breath, not quite a laugh. "I don't want to be a legend." "Too late," Liam smirked. "You already are." Jaden shook his head, pushing open the front doors and stepping outside. The air was cool, the sky starting to turn gold with the setting sun. But as he walked toward his bike, something caught his eye. A car was parked across the street, engine running, tinted windows rolled up. There was nothing strange about it at first, just another car waiting. But then, as Jaden reached for his bike, his phone buzzed again. Another message. "We see you." His chest tightened. Slowly he looked back at the car. And this time he knew for sure. Someone inside was watching him. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Then, without warning, the car pulled away from the curb, driving off smoothly down the street. No rush, no panic, just gone. Jaden exhaled, gripping his phone. It wasn't over. And deep down, he had known it wouldn't be. By the time he got home, his mom was in the kitchen, humming softly as she chopped vegetables. The smell of garlic filled the air, warm and familiar. For the first time all day, Jaden felt himself relax just a little. "Hey, sweetheart," his mom said without turning around. "First day go okay?" Jaden hesitated. Then with a small smile he said yeah. It was fine. His mom turned to face him, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "No trouble." He met her gaze, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on him. The fight that never was. The whispers. The message. Car. And yet, somehow, he still found himself saying no trouble. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Good." Jaden sat down at the kitchen table, staring at his phone. The screen was dark, but he knew another message could come at any moment. Whoever it was, whatever they wanted. He knew he'd have to be ready. But for now, just for a little while, he let himself breathe.